Hello and welcome back to the channel. This is my XJ900 bike that I'm going to be restoring over the next series of videos. I recently did an introduction video to the bike, so hopefully you've all seen that now. And today this is all going to be about doing the clutch and hopefully getting my head around exactly what's going on with it. So the first thing that I need to think about doing is taking off this cover plate. Now I could at this point drain all the oil to make this a lot easier, but I have got the bike on the side stand, and I'm hoping with the bike on the side stand it's going to be leaning over away so the oil actually goes this way. I'm going to put a little catch bucket underneath, and I'm just going to release all of these Allen keys and the cable itself, just so that I can sneak a peek. Now if I lose oil, I'm not bothered because I've got oil to go back in, or new oil, and I will be doing a full service on the bike anyway. So I think what I'll do at the moment is I'll just get all my tools out, get this released, see how much oil comes out. I'm hoping not a lot, because the actual sight glass is just here and that's actually showing empty because all the oil was leaning away, so I'm hoping that's just going to be enough to be able to achieve what I need. So yeah, let's get into it and see what comes up. Right, so I've got my catch bucket. I'm going to stick it underneath here and hopefully catch any spill out if there is any. And first thing I want to do though, before we do any of this, is just see if I can liberate this cable. And I think it's going to be a two-hand job, so I'm probably going to have to put the camera down. But essentially, I'm hoping that I can persuade this enough to the right to be able to release the cable. And there we go. That's now the cable released. Okay, so first order of business is to remove all of these Allen key bolts, and they're all look like they're H5s. So I go all the way around, and that will then release this plate. Now I am expecting to lose some oil here, so we'll see how we go. But as I said before, probably best practice is to drain the oil completely. Oh, some of these are quite tight. Yeah, I don't like that one. That seems quite tight. Might need to get a bit of heat on that. That one's released. That one's tight. That one's released. Right, so we've got three tight ones, and what I really don't want to be doing here is messing about and trying to shear these. So I would much rather get them off with a little bit of heat if I can. So we're going to just heat things up a smidge. Don't want to go too crazy because we are dealing with aluminium at the end of the day. You know, get a little bit of heat in there. That should just be enough to give them the persuasion that they need. So yeah, let me get these heated up and then we'll go from there. So I'm only using a very low powered heat torch just to get a little bit of heat on it, really, because I just don't want to risk these shearing off, really, if I can help it. It's not impossible to deal with, it's just a pain when you've got to start drilling stuff out and helicoiling and tapping and, you know, messing around. So we'll see how this one does first. Make sure we got it. There we go. That's that one cracked. And then she's cracked off. Perfect. So that's all of them undone now. So I'm just going to take a moment just to undo all this. Getting a very strong smell of fuel from the oil. Now this oil looks a lot thinner than I would expect it to be, so this could either be the fact that I've got a bad carburetor seat, which is allowing the fuel into the engine, or the fuel tap itself is allowing fuel to bypass it and then go through into the carbs, which is then eventually making its way through the carbs and seeping its way down into the combustion chamber through the inlet, which is then going to be compromising the quality of the oil. So I'm very pleased to be doing a full oil change on this bike. Take the cover off. So first initial inspections is the drive part of here is actually in good order, and now that I was concerned about, that there was sort of damage here, but there doesn't appear to be any, so that's good. So we'll remove that for the moment. So I think what we'll do now is we'll start to undo these and see how we go. Okay, so when they undo, you've got your top bolt on the top of the spring and it all just sort of pulls back. So I'll just put those somewhere safe. Okay, so that's the 6 springs off. And now remove this plate. So I'm going to now get all this apart, and then we'll have a little look together once I've got all these off, and it's just a case of ring plate, ring plate, ring plate, and so on. So this being your the sort of meat of the clutch, if you like, and then there's a sort of plate where it grabs behind. So we'll yeah, take all this apart and see how it looks. Okay, so now I've got the majority of, well, just about all the clutch disassembled now. There was quite a lot of resistance on some of these plates, so where the plate sits between the clutch, and then you can see on this one they're actually stuck together and fused, which is what I feared was causing the problem. Now it's taking quite a lot of resistance to separate that, and being as these are a wet clutch system, these are all supposed to be able to not be together essentially. So yeah, my understanding of the way this works is this part sits still and this part will rotate. I think, I'm not entirely sure how the mechanics works, but there's a teeth here that will lock onto the flywheel, and this obviously is part of your gearbox. So the fact that these two spin independently is normal, and having the ability with these essentially being able to lock in like that there, and then these lock in to the teeth there, essentially means that when they're all sort of separated, you get separation or disconnection between the gearbox and the engine. Right, so now we've got the bits inside. I'm going to first of all just measure the thickness of the plate. This is the one of the many plates, and according to the book of words here, the plate itself needs to be within a tolerance of 1.9 to 2.1 millimeter. So I've zeroed off my my vernier gauge, and yeah, so we're still at the upper end of the thickness, so 1.97. So I'm more than happy with the service life of that. That's okay. And the clutch plate itself, or the pressure plate, is supposed to be a thickness of 2.9 to 3.1. So we'll just see where that is. And yeah, looking at around about, I don't know if you can see on the camera, about 3.1. So I think there's actually plenty of meat left on these. So I think what I'm going to do is clean everything up, and so that when it all goes back together, that it's going to not stick. And you can see where these have been sticking on the surface of here. There's like these little, hope you can see in the camera, these little web or little stick marks on every single one of these. So this is all going to get cleaned up, made to look good, and then they can be reinstalled. Another thing I'm going to do whilst I'm in the workshop today is I'm also going to just have a little look at this and just polish it up, because there's a couple of areas here where we've got some lacquer that's come off. So I'm just going to give the whole thing a polish, just to make it look a little bit nicer. So to clean these, I'm not going to go too crazy. I'm just going to get myself a little bit of Scotch-Brite pad, and now I can remove my book of words. We don't need that right now. And I'm just going to use a little bit of oil on my Scotch-Brite. I've no idea whether this is the right thing to do or not, but just a little bit of oil, so I can sort of clean and lubricate at the same time. I don't want to go too crazy here. I don't want to actually scratch the surface, but I just want to see if I can get rid of some of that staining. So yeah, it does seem to be working, so I'm just going to run around all of these, clean them up as best as possible. I'm going to also try and maintain the order that this entire set sticks in, or stays in, or is in, just so that when it all goes back together, it's going to be right. So yeah, give me just a moment, I'll get all this cleaned up, and I'll show you the result after. That's all now cleaned up. I've sprayed compressed air over it. I've cleaned up this little needle bearing as well, and that is just inspected it to make sure that they're all in good order, and they are. And there's a little washer that goes with that too. So yeah, it's quite straightforward. You have this, which is the clutch puller, if you like, the needle bearing, and then the washer itself that goes in between. And I'm just going to chuck a little bit of oil on here. Just because it calls for it. Yeah, that's rotating absolutely lovely. And the idea is that once the clutch is in position, all the clutch plates are in position, as the cable gets pulled, it rotates the shaft, which locates onto this, which pulls this entire thing back and forth against the springs, which sort of engages and disengages the clutch. So that's all been cleaned up now, and it's beautiful. Quite happy with that. And then I'll just for now stick the clutch plates back on. So we have cleaned up all of these now as best I can. They're not absolutely perfectly clean, but they're certainly better than they were. I'm only just line these in just so that I don't lose them. And I have measured all of these to make sure that they're all within tolerance, and they are. So that's pretty much ready when the weather suits. It's incredibly windy today. I think it's blowing a gale out there. But when the weather suits, I will be in a position to get all that back on the bike. and hopefully we'll have a working clutch. I think what I'll do for now is I'll wrap this in an old t-shirt for now, just to keep it all safe and together. So this plate, I mean, it's not in bad condition, this cover plate. There's a couple of little areas that I just want to address. So what I'm going to do very lightly is just wire wheel this lacquer off and then run it on the buffer just to get it cleaned up. And I'm going to sort of do that around a few places that are the lacquer's sort of pulled away, and then I'll just give it a very quick polish just to make it good. So when I do this, I'm only just using the edge of the wheel. I'm not putting too much pressure on either. I'm just knocking off the lacquer. Okay, so there's a couple of areas that the wheel wouldn't get to. So I'm just going to use a Dremel on those with a wire brush attachment. So it's only a gentle clean, nothing heavy. So we're going to use a little bit of compound. Oops, crikey, that came out way quicker than I thought that was going to. So I'll chuck a little bit of autosol on this, and that should give us a nice little finish. So just going to go and carry on with this, and I'll show you the end result. After a fair bit of polishing, I've got this to a point where I'm really happy with it. It's not overly mirror shined. I didn't really want that sort of look. I just wanted it to look kind of correct for the bike and the age. So I've just got rid of any of the loose lacquer that was affecting it, and I'm more than happy with how this looks. I think when it's back on the bike, it's just going to look perfect. There's going to be a few other bits that I'm going to actually do on the engine to dress it up, but I'm more than happy with the way this has turned out. If you think different, then let me know in the comments. If you think I should have gone for a complete mirror shine and really made it pop, then let me know. But I'm more than happy with the way it looks. The last thing I need to do now is just to clean up this surface ready for the new gasket, and then I'll be ready to install the clutch. So yeah, I've enjoyed this. I love this sort of stuff, so it's going to look great on the bike. So finally we've got a nice day, and today's a perfect day. A little bit cold still, but I don't mind the cold. Going to get the clutch installed, which has been sitting now, and we're going to get the fuel tank taken off. We're going to inspect the frame and the wiring, because I've still got that fueling issue into the oil, which I need to investigate at a later date. But for now, I'm going to bottle feed the engine, and I want to just test and verify that the clutch is working. The clutch plates and pressure plates have been soaking overnight in some engine oil, so when they get installed, they're not going to be dry. I've read up that that's the best way to do it. So when they go installed, or get installed should I say, they'll get installed wet, so they're sort of pre-lubricated. So I think we'll get the tank off and get that clutch installed. So with the fuel tank removed, I was able to get good access now to the top here and have a good look. Looks like the frame itself is going to clean up really well. The wiring looks to be in all good order, so that's good. I can now see the tops of the carburetors. Now I've had it on good authority, so my best mate in the world is Sean, and I'd just first of all like to thank him actually for picking up this bike, finding me the bike. I wouldn't do half the things I do without Sean, so I really do appreciate the efforts that you've gone to, Sean, to get me this. So he has told me these carburetors are a bit of a mission to take off, and so far any advice he's ever given me has been correct, so I will love to see how difficult these are to take off. When I took the fuel line off the fuel tank, the actual fuel tap itself did not leak any fuel past, so I'm very confident now that my fuel issue that's getting the fuel into the oil is actually coming through the seats. So they that way need investigating. But for the moment, I'm not going to worry too much about that, because what I want to concentrate on is getting the oil filter replaced. Drain, we'll take the drain plug out and just check there isn't any more oil that needs to come out. Then we'll get all that buttoned up, get the clutch in, get some oil in, get it started, and see exactly where we are. So this is kind of what you've got, which is like looks like some kind of filter in itself, and it looks like there's an O-ring at the top here which we're going to be replacing. And then the filter itself has a spring, I don't know if you can see that, which will retain, and that can just be disregarded. And then we've got the actual housing itself, which I'm just going to go and give a little bit of a clean. Okay, so my replacement oil filter kit hasn't come with a new O-ring for here, so I assume you have to use the old one. I have just inspected it and it all looks in good order, so I'm not too worried about that leaking. I did have an O-ring to put on there, which I've done, so that's new. So we'll just get this rebuilt and put back together. So you've got the spring that goes in down the bottom, filter goes on the top, and then that's ready to screw back in. So we've got a brand new washer installed. So I'll just tighten that up. So with the filter back on and the sump plug now all buttoned up, I'm now ready to install the clutch. So that's been soaking in oil, and it is just a case of one at a time. It's going to be pressure plate, plate, pressure plate, plate, pressure plate, plate, and build it all the way back up. So a bit of a messy job, so I've got some gloves on. I think we'll get to it. So oh, it's so messy. There's a lot of this. So, excellent, but what a mess. Right, so already put the top plate back on. It's worth noting that there's a little dot just here, which corresponds to a little dot just there. So it is required that you put it on the right way. And then we'll just keep that like that for a moment. And then it's going to be a case of a spring and bolt. just put one in initially just to get things started, like so. And then we're going to be torquing these up to about 8 Newton meters, nothing more. They don't need an awful lot of tightening because they will shear off if you're not too careful. Excellent, so that's the clutch now installed. This is a little bit loose at this point, but that's not going to be a problem because once the plate goes on, that'll engage. And the whole premise of this is to pull this whole mechanism back against the springs, which will then disengage these plates. It was worth noting also, when I put all this back together before I put this plate on, I was able to get full rotation of the plates versus the pressure plates that are kind of locked in, so I have no doubt now that this clutch is going to be okay, so I'm quite pleased. What you're looking to do is to locate this shaft onto this spline, or that spline onto this shaft here. So it's a case of getting this at an angle where it's going to meet it, and then making sure that you bring this round enough so that when you marry it all up, and it is just a case of marrying the surfaces together, you get a feel for when it's about to locate. I'll just turn that around just a little bit more. And there we go, that's got it. Right, so after a little bit of adjustment, I've now managed to torque everything up. I've got a nicely working clutch, so I'm happy with that. I'm now going to stick some oil in it up to the fill level, and then we're going to start the bike up and see how it feels. So I'm happy with the oil level. I've got no leaks that I can see, so I'll just give the bike a couple of turns over without choke at this point. Just so that I can get the oil circulating. I've mocked up a fuel system with my little gravity tank, plumbed it into the main fuel supply line. So we'll just turn some fuel on, start the bike up. So hopefully that will start a little bit of choke. And we're going to engage the clutch into gear, release the clutch, engage the clutch, release the clutch, engage the clutch, back into neutral. That is brilliant. So we now have a working clutch. So with that job ticked off and out of the way, I'm pleased to say we're one step closer to getting this bike back on the road. The next job's going to be that fueling issue. So in the next video, we're going to be tackling that along with possibly the brakes and having a little look and making a list of more jobs that we need to do on this bike. I really enjoy doing these videos and I really enjoy the support. Help me out if you want to consider subscribing. I'd really appreciate it. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, and if you ring that little bell, you'll get notifications of the next video. Can't wait to see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching.